Hi and welcome to our podcast today. We have the Early Years Company and Polylino together. I'm Vanessa Chandler and this is Kelly Hill from the Early Years Company. Thank you so much for being here today, Kelly.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're going to do a short introduction on who we are, where we come from, and then our topic today is going to be communication and language. So I'm Vanessa Chandler from Polylino. Polylino is a multilingual digital book platform where we strive to use storytelling to create opportunities for the children to provide an inclusive environment, to offer examples of diversity and equality, to support EAL children, disadvantaged children, reluctant readers, and to just share the magic of story time with every child within early years. Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm the founder of the Early Years Company. We do everything early years. We support the leaders of early years settings, leaders, managers and owners in terms of their leadership and their growth and development of the business. And then we also support teams with their training. So we do leadership coaching, we do early years training. Everything that makes your teams better is where the early years can fit in.
Amazing. So hopefully today, bringing those two companies together, we should be able to bring communication and language alive and help you as nursery settings, practitioners, teachers, to see how we would use strategies, resources to really highlight the communication and language within early year settings for each and every child. So Kelly, you've also got nursery as well, haven't you? So what strategies do you use within your setting to create opportunities for the children to really embrace that communication and language?
Oh, that's a loaded question. There's so much that we do. And I think first and foremost, it's about really knowing the child, and each unique individual child, and where they're at in terms of their communication and language, what they need. And then building on your curriculum to ensure that communication and language is threaded through everything that you do. Every interaction that you have with a child is an opportunity to build communication and language. So it's making sure that you're really thoughtful about the communication that you're using with children, and that for each individual unique child, you know where their starting points are, you know where they're heading, what they can already do, and how you can build on that using such a huge range of strategies. So the environment, the activities, everything that we do with children is an opportunity to talk. So even, lunchtime, snack time, going to the toilet, nappy changing, it's all an opportunity to have a conversation. So it's about really knowing those children and what they need from you at any given time.
Yeah, wonderful, amazing. So my background is I'm a primary school teacher. I worked in reception and Key Stage 1, mostly reception, so very much early years for 10 years. My passion is for inclusivity and to ensure that every child is included, because every child matters. So working with Polylino, I feel that I can have or add value to different nursery settings, because I have that perspective of creating opportunities for storytelling, etc., but also using visual timetables, photos, using a resource like Makaton, singing props, and as I've mentioned with Polylino, storytelling. Are those resources and opportunities that you give to your children as well, Kelly?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's kind of having those tools in your toolbox to use when it's appropriate. So we can set up activities, we can set up story baskets and, little puppets and resources to tell a story. And it might be that you have a focus story or a particular story the children are enjoying and you're reading that regularly with them. But also having those resources to hand just for those in the moment kind of quick things that happen and you think, oh, I've got a story about that, or I've got a resource about that. And one of the things that we know is that practice is so important, that opportunity to just keep repeating words and practice playing with words and with language. So having those opportunities to repeat books and read them over and over again, and not I think as practitioners, it's easy for us to get bored of a story, but the children don't. And when they want that repetition, that's what practice makes permanent, isn't it? That's what instills that story and that rhyme. And a good friend of mine, Pep the poet, he talks about children should have the opportunity to play with words like Lego. They should be able to deconstruct words, put them back together, try them out, see what they can build with language. And we should be encouraging children to be silly with words as well and make up words, and language becomes fun and communication becomes fun.
Yeah, there should be no hang-ups for the children
No.
to explore different practices with storytelling, with words, etc.
Yeah.
Have you used Polylino, Kelly?
Yes, absolutely. We use Polylino in the nursery. The children really enjoy it. We particularly, it served us well with a girl that we had, a young little girl that we had from the Ukraine, and it helped us to really support her, to engage her in story time and circle time, so that she could hear the story in her home language whilst we're using the story with the rest of the children. So yeah,
Wonderful.
absolutely.
And it's amazing stories like that we are thrilled to provide Polylino to early years settings. I didn't mention at the start, but Polylino has 69 different languages on the platform. So the books are all narrated by mother tongue speakers from around the world to enable the children and practitioners to share books without us having the fear of trying to speak another language and not quite getting it right, and the children looking at us thinking, that does not sound like my language. So we use this bank of speakers to narrate our books. So all of our books are audio, and it enables us to share books with children, break down barriers, create those relationships with the children and the parents, to make them feel safe within the setting, when they feel that security of, actually that's my language, actually I can listen to this book, actually my friends can hear my language as well. I think it really opens up doors for the children for that communication and language, and it's a great tool, as we've just heard off you as well, Kelly. So
Absolutely.
Great to hear that you've been using it.
And I think when we think about children with EAL, it's not about us knowing their language and us teaching them their language. They get that at home. It's their home language. That's what they get. And often children are dual language. Our job is to instill a really strong understanding of the British language, of English. And to do that, children need to feel safe, they need to feel welcome, they need to feel that they're heard and listened to. So our job isn't to teach them their home language. Our job is to create an environment where their home language is valued, as well as teaching them English at the same time.
Yeah, massively. And I think just pulling on that, the parent partnerships becomes key there, which we know is so important within early years. And Polylino see the value in this, so therefore we offer a home access whereby the parents get full access to the platform of over 700 books, to sit with the children at home. They don't just have to listen to the books in their home language. They have another 68 different languages, including English, that they can listen to. But it's something that they can share that journey, what the child has been looking at in the school, in the classroom, in the early years setting, and then share that at home as well with their children. And that's so precious, isn't it? But also when we think about parents coming into our settings with children, it must be really daunting for them to be dropping their child off. They have no language, English language. We're also helping them on their journey to break down barriers with them, to create those relationships, not just with the children, but with the parents, so that actually they can leave their child and feel safe in the knowledge that they trust us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think Polylino can work hand in hand with that as well, with securing those perfect partnerships with the parents, which is great. So gaining attention, I think that's key for the children. And we have to remember that we're dealing with children that are between 0 and 5. The attention span is not going to be there for a long period of time. So how do you create those interactions?
I think firstly it's key to understand how long a child should have attention for. And there's a general rule that it's the age plus 2.
Yes.
So if they're 3, then they should be having 5 minutes of deep engagement. And that's not to say they can't have longer, of course they can, but that deep kind of heavily engaged time span should be around their age plus 2. So it's about really understanding the children, knowing what their interests are, but then providing an environment that is exciting and that is engaging, that has that awe and wonder, that allows them to come into the setting and want to engage and want to play. I think that's really key. And I think when we're engaging children, it's not about doing something spectacular all of the time. It's about doing the things that they are interested in and they want to do, and us following their lead and then weaving the teaching in through that play, through those interactions. And one of the things we see a lot of at the moment is the talk about the less chatty child. And we all have children who have great communication skills. They'll come in on a Monday, they'll tell you all about their day, all about their weekend, all about what's gone on, and they've got really great communication skills. And those children, it's very easy to have lots of interactions with, because they encourage the interaction.
Yep.
And then you might have children perhaps with EAL or speech and language concerns or SEND. And for those children, we have plans in place, we have strategies, we have targets and things that we do with them to really enhance their speech and language. But it's the less chatty children, it's those in the middle that are being left behind and perhaps aren't thriving, the ones who are quieter, the ones who don't make the interactions with you. They're the ones that we really need to focus on, the ones who are quite happy playing quietly. And unless we go and make those interactions and have those conversations, they might not initiate those conversations with us. So I would say very much focusing on those children. Where are they? How many interactions have I had with them today? And a lot of our 3-year-olds are children that were born right at the very first lockdown, who didn't have the interactions that we would expect children to have in those first few years. So again, we've noticed that that speech and language isn't where we would expect it to be for many children. And so it's important that we're kind of recognising how we can develop that, how we can push it forward, how we can support the development. But also for lots of children, that's not saying every child, because for lots of children, they had great interactions during that lockdown. They had their parents at home and they had, lots of opportunity for storytelling and songs singing and all of those things. But for us, it's about recognising each unique child and making sure that we're having those interactions all the time and singing those songs and repeating them over time, and allowing children to use props or to use their body language, dancing and movements alongside the words, so that the practice becomes repetitive, but also fun. Exactly. But also understanding that we can give children hard words, and that's okay. So, for example, it might be that they've got an activity. One of the things we did recently was we had herbal tea bags out with the children and warm water, and they were pouring tea and making tea. And one of the practitioners used the word infuse, and the children started to use that word, I'm infusing my tea. And it was never in the curriculum we were going to teach them that. It wasn't a thing, but it just naturally happened by us giving those little words. And those children who didn't pick up the word infuse, they might hear it again somewhere else and again somewhere else, and then they start to understand what that word might mean.
No, that's amazing. And it's about having those opportunities, isn't it, with the children, and really extending their learning. And I bet you've got amazing observations from that.
Oh, absolutely. and I think the thing is as well, we're in early years, we spend a lot of time waiting for the next thing. There's always something we've got to do next. You'd have breakfast, and it's perhaps free play, and then it's outside, and then it's snack, and then it's this, and then it's that. And we kind of need to stay in the moment with children, and we need, if we're doing an activity with them or joining them in their play, we need to just enjoy and embrace that time and not be thinking, I've got to do snack in a minute, I've got to go and put the washer on, and I've got to go and do the washing up, and that parent's coming at that time, and that child needs medication at that time. And before we know it, we're thinking so much about what we've got to do next that we're not engaging with the children in that moment. Yeah. It's definitely evident that it's really important to follow the child's lead in opportunities like that, because they don't come up every day, opportunities like that. So when we do get that, it's really important to embrace it and just run with it and let the children guide us, because what we get from the children then in that moment is phenomenal. But if we're not listening actively to the children, then or we're thinking about something else, then that we're missing those opportunities to have those discussions and to really engage, and for children to feel heard and feel valued, and for them to start then feeling confident to use this new language and try it out and see,
that's really also, cute, infusing.
And also just recasting their language. So it might be that you have a child who says something wrong. They might, pick up an ambulance and say it's an ambulance, or, you know, say it not quite right. And rather than us go, no, it's not that, we just say it in the right way and just recast the language back to them.
Yes.
Rather than saying, no, you've done it wrong. Because no,
Yeah.
you've done it wrong means I might not try again then.
Yeah, that's
You know.
really cut them short, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, no, that's not good. And I think that's where we see Polylino being used within early year settings, whereby we share the book together. We can share it in one language, another language. We can change through our books to change the languages at any point. And then we can extend the learning by going off to the Tough Tub, labelling the objects with the different languages that we've just listened to the story with. And then we can share those learnings with all of the children, and the children that do speak another language generally will be so excited that they've been given an opportunity to really highlight their language, but also that their friends are listening and they're like, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
Like, this is an opportunity for me to say my language and to teach my friends what ambulance means, or whatever it might be, object or vehicle, and they can say it out loud, and we can share that interaction with the children, and it really brings out their confidence, because that's what we're there to do. We're there to make the children feel safe, to instill them with confidence, and to offer these opportunities whereby they can experience these wonderful moments of joy.
Yeah, and sharing. Well, there's nothing better, is even as an adult, we love sharing our experiences with our friends, you know, and feeling that their joy feeling to us is great, to know that somebody else is happy for us and can relate to us. And it's the same for children. They want to share their experiences and feel held in mind, and feel like their thoughts and their words and their actions are important.
Yeah, definitely. Through body language, actions, something key, importance of pausing to listen to the children. I think sometimes, you mentioned earlier, Kelly, that we do have a busy timetable. We have to fit everything in, but having those times of reflection and just to pause and just to say, okay, tell me about it. Yeah. Tell me about, and even if they make a story up, it doesn't matter, you've still paused for that reflection and that listening time with that child to make them feel important, for them to feel like, wow, I've actually captured your attention. Yeah. So
the pause is just so important. As an adult, we don't like a pause. We don't like silence.
Yes, we get nervous about that.
And so, you know, if we ask a child a question, or, you know, we're doing that serve and return in a conversation, we have to give them that time to think about, what have I just been asked? What do I think about that? What is my response going to be? What are the words that I need? And now I can say them. And that pause opportunity is particularly important for children with SEND and children with speech and language, because we need them to know that we can wait. Yes. That we have the time to wait for their response. And I think particularly when we're being inspected, there's this fear of, I need to be talking all the time, I need to be doing all the time. And I've seen settings whereby the staff get into this fear of being observed, and so they're kind of like, what colour is that? What shape is that? Can you see that? Is that a dinosaur? What name? And before you know, the children are just like, whoa, overwhelmed. How many questions are you going to ask? And that's just a fear-based response from the member of staff, whereas actually just pausing and asking really appropriate questions, or even no questions at all, just annotating your own play alongside a child can be far more effective. Oh, look, I've just picked up the red apple. I wonder if I can find the green one. Or, look, I've just made a hedgehog with my spiky bits of pasta in my Play-Doh. You know, annotating your own play. The children will go, I can do that too. Look, I've got the green one. I can find that for you. And you don't need to ask a question to whether a child knows or has learned something. If you annotate your own play and annotate theirs, they'll give you the answers that you're looking for in order to really understand them.
And actually you're getting rich observations from that then, as opposed to the practitioner really leading with a question. You're actually doing it in a roundabout way, but actually the communication that you're getting back from the child is so much richer and detailed.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as well, it's important that when we're annotating our play, we annotate those of others, and we kind of go, I love how you're doing that, Richie. I love that you've just done that, Zane. Or, you know, and having those conversational opportunities rather than, you know, everyone sit around a table, who can find the green pencil? You know, it just gets it's boring for you as well as for the children.
Yeah.
But if you are asking questions, one of the favourite way of asking questions for me is I wonder questions. I wonder what would happen if I did this, or I wonder what would happen if you did that, or I wonder why the leaves are all coming off the trees. And you get all these wonderful varied answers and descriptions and ideas from the children, and it can lead on to so much more than just those closed questions where there's only right or wrong answer.
And as you say, it's easy for us to really push because our nerves get in the way when Ofsted's coming. Let's face that. But we get so much more from the children when we very much get led by them.
Yes,
as opposed to us leading them. We touched a little bit on body language, etc. And we touched a bit on the lockdown, the communication with the children. Makaton, is that something that you use within your setting, and is it important?
Yes, absolutely. It's something we're developing more and more. We do have some children in the setting that have speech and language support, and Makaton really helps them when they are non-verbal or really struggling with their communication to be able to communicate and prevent that frustration of, I can't tell you what I want.
Yes.
Makaton really helps with that. And some parents get a little bit concerned that using Makaton might stop the children from talking, whereas actually it doesn't. As long as you're using the words alongside the sign, then the children will learn the words and the sign together, and it just prevents that frustration of not being able to express what my wants are or my thoughts and my feelings. And working with parents, as I said about parent partnerships, making sure parents are using the same signs and are understanding what the signs are, and then the children start to use the signs with one another, and we've seen that in setting, you know, children who have very, very strong speech and language trying to communicate with a child perhaps who hasn't got that strength of speech and language, they'll start using signs in order that they can communicate. And you know, children do it naturally, and it doesn't ever detract from learning language. It only supports it moving forward.
Embellishes it.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked that, Kelly, is because we're getting Makaton put on Polylino, so we're having books translated with the use of Makaton onto the Polylino platform, so that we can support those children that would potentially feel more confident having that book signed through the Makaton signing, which is we're all about including every child, as I said at the start, so we want to make sure that we're catering for every child. And
that's the key, isn't it? We sometimes can think inclusivity means everyone having the same, and it doesn't. Inclusivity means everyone having what they need in order to be included. So for some children it's orals, for some children it's sign language, for some children it's reading something visual, pictures maybe, picture timetables, those kind of things. So inclusivity is make sure everyone has the opportunity to be included, whatever that looks like for them. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we can embrace that, and we've got that all in the Polylino platform with all of our books. When I was looking through the EYFS last night before doing this podcast today, I was looking at the communication language literacy and was so thrilled to see how much storytelling is key to early years, and how actually we can thread through Polylino because of our storytelling, and our motto is bringing the magic of story time to every child. Is storytelling a big part of your day within your setting? Huge. Storytelling, I think when we think of storytelling, we traditionally think of all the children sat nicely on a mat while the teacher holds the book and reads the story, and whilst there's value in that, storytelling is so much more than that. It's about, you know, almost annotating children's play whilst they're engaged, so you can kind of tell a story while they're playing with the trains, and I wonder where that train's going to. Do you remember in our story when the train went to so and so? Maybe that's where the train's going. And just relating stories that way, using puppets, using story spoons, dressing up, whatever you want to use to really bring the story to life. But as I said at the beginning, that repetition of storytelling is so important, because a child might hear a story, and then when you reread that story, they'll hear something completely different, or they'll remember a little part, and they'll bring that into their play. But also then they'll start retelling that story using their own words, and then they'll retell the story using the real words, and then before you know it, that story becomes part of their life. My middle daughter, I'm sure she won't mind me sharing, she's 20 and she can still recite the whole of the Gruffalo because she just loved it. And you know, and it's one of those stories that everybody enjoys, but actually the language and the rhyming of words and all of that really helps,
doesn't it? It embeds. Absolutely. It's all about that embedding experience, isn't it? It's amazing, and obviously we're passionate about early years and giving the best to every child that we have coming through our settings, and in any way that we can help with resources, etc. We are passionate about giving that opportunity to each and every child. I'm pretty much done there. Are you done? Are you done, Kelly? Yeah.
I
Is there
think
anything
so.
else you want to add?
I think all that I would say is to be confident when you're having conversations with children. It doesn't matter if you get a word wrong or you say something a bit silly. In fact, the children love it all the more. And just find those opportunities to have as many verbal or signed interactions with children as you can every single day, because we need to bridge that gap. We need them to go to school verbally able to express their needs, to have a real love for reading, to find books really interesting, to want to learn through communication and language. And if we can do that, then we set them up for an absolutely amazing start of their education.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hopefully that's all good value content. And thanks for listening. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.